ready. Hold tight.
Hold on to your hats, boys.
Libos.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
Just what the flipping Nora are you all lot doing?
I'm still in there. I'm still right behind him.
It was just a very well thought out tactical plan by Danny.
I want go!
I can literally feel the steam coming out your ears.
So it's like a fun little post-game snack.
The Wednesday Week!
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week. Hello from the other side edition. Coming up, we've got all that way to go down to Plymouth, a place that's not been great for us in recent years, and we talk about the upcoming game with Dan from the Argyle Life in... Yes, Dan, you all right, pal?
Yeah, very good, thanks, Dan. Cracking intro, that.
Lots going on, mate. You've got to keep it changing in about 3 months as well when I get bored with it. And given the feedback we've had from Adele, I feel like this is the last season we've got of Adele, and everybody's kind of happy about it and sad at the same time. So. There we go. Excuse me. Now, welcome to the show, Dan. I've not spoken to you before. I'm normally speaking to another Plymouth fan in Ben, and normally this part I speak to you guys and say, how was what was the expectations this season going into that, and then we'll talk about the upcoming game. So let's wind it right back to July, August, and talk about how you felt this season was going to go.
I'll be brutally honest. I don't think I quite mirrored the kind of wider kind of reflection of Argyle fans, because there was a lot of excitement with the appointment of Wayne Rooney and how things were going to go.
Was there really? I know
it really was. Yeah,
it sounds really catty.
I know. I think after the initial "what on earth has happened? We've just appointed Plymouth Argyle have appointed Wayne Rooney." We kind of got over the shock of that. I think a wave of optimism kind of sprung through our fan base. And I think it was a bit of a siege mentality thing of all the national media were laughing at us basically. And, from that, we kind of said, well, we kind of like the fact that no one likes us and everyone's writing us off. We're going to do well. And then all it really took, I think, was Rooney to kind of do a bit of kind of, basic kind of sound bites to the media. And he kind of spent a bit of time in Plymouth and did some dodgy karaoke in local pubs. And that's all it kind of took to then be like, oh, actually, we are going to do well. And that enthusiasm was very, very quickly dampened on the opening day with a defeat to your lot, where it was one of the most one-sided games I've seen. But sadly, as a kind of reflection, talking on the rest of the season, probably not our worst performance of the season. You might be shocked to hear there's a pretty long list to choose from, unfortunately. But at the start of the season, I think a lot of, again, national media were kind of, tipping us widely to kind of finish bottom. And I think our fans kind of thought, not wildly ambitious thinking playoffs or anything like that, but just kind of thought, yeah, we'll be 16th, 17th, we'll be fine. Rooney will sort us out. I didn't share that optimism. I kind of thought, to be honest, our best chance of staying up is him getting sacked as quickly as possible. As it happens, it's kind of happened halfway through the season, and now we're trying to fight to catch back up again.
Did you feel like your board? Oh, I can hear myself. Look at that. Did you feel like your board dragged their feet a little bit?
I think they had to go with it once they'd appointed him. They had to kind of see how it played out a little bit, whether it would be in a kind of a mission of we screwed up, we were wrong. I don't quite know, but even the timing of it seemed quite odd in that he brought Mike Phelan in on his coaching staff maybe 3 weeks before, I think it was, and then all of a sudden he was out the door. Whether there was something else that happened that kind of accelerated the process, I'm not quite sure. A few rumours floated around, but nothing concrete. But certainly, I as I say, I was kind of fed up with him very early doors, and I think there was a time where after we had a couple of road trips to Norwich and Bristol City, we lost on aggregate 10-1. And it seemed like after that time, a lot of the fan base went, right, we've also had enough now. It's not working. He's not made us anywhere near as good as we thought it'd be. We're heading down to League One unless something changes very, very quickly with January approaching. As it happened, like I said, the timing of it seemed strange given that it happened just before January. And then it was, we had to kind of quickly scramble to appoint someone and then get all the transfers in. So the timing of it did seem odd. And, I could easily kind of sit here and say, I never wanted it. I didn't want him in the first place. But once we had him, it was a massive frustration that, we didn't make that call in kind of November time at least, which would have given us more time to appoint a guy and for him to assess the squad and pick out his January targets. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems it did seem odd. Let's go back to that first game of the season. I genuinely thought, after that we're winning the league. It's all happening. Oh my God, we're going to be in the playoffs. We're going to be fighting up amongst Sheffield United and Leeds. It's going to be great. And then our ass got hit on the floor quite quickly, playing away at Sunderland and getting our backside handed to us. And you come away from a result like that from the opening day of the season, and you go, "Oh, this is where we are," and then you kind of go, "Oh, we're not there." And after the first game, you go, was it us that were good, or was it you, the guys that were quite poor on the day? New signings, new gaffer, you had a lot to try and bed in at that early part of the season, and it's really odd when you're playing a team in August, because you kind of go, well, this isn't the team that's going to be playing by September, October. It's really frustrating that we opened our season once against Southampton like the other year, and you kind of go, well, there's James Ward-Prowse in the middle of the park. It's really frustrating. But there seems to have been an entire change, because look at the way February has gone. I would, on the whole, say that February for Plymouth Argyle has been a really good month. Take away beating Liverpool and turning up against Man City in the Cup. You've got some results there against West Brom down at your gaff. You got. You'd be frustrated at a draw at Luton given how their season's going, but that there's still something in Luton given that they were playing Premier League football this time last year, right? But spanking Millwall 5-1 down at your gaff, that was a hell of a result. So I thought Millwall were on the up. I thought they were having one of those decent seasons as far as Millwall criteria is going to go. Yeah, and you must have thought to yourself, hang on a minute, we beat Liverpool, we beat Millwall, we're going to be all right. And then it's all kind of changed in the last couple of weeks, because Cardiff have started to pick up points a little bit, and there's now that, I want to say, 5-point gap between 21st and 22nd now, right?
Indeed, yeah. It swung very, very quickly. There were certainly times early on when we appointed Miran Muslic, and he had 3 home games in a week, and we only picked up 1 point from those 3 games, and included in that was the absolute horror show at home to Burnley when we were 5-0 down at half time, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
After that game, we were dead and buried. We were down. It was too late to make any difference. I think we were 7 points adrift or 8 points adrift, and it seemed done. And all of a sudden, as you say, we pick up some really good results in February, and we're right back in the pack. And yes, the draws at Luton and Cardiff were frustrating. They were very poor performances as well, to be honest. But on results-wise, it was very important to not lose those games, and the cliched 6-pointers. It kept us in the pack, and we were in with a shout, which, given where we'd been at the end of January, was fantastic. It's look how far we've come type thing. But then how quickly it swings. Last night we could have gone level on points with Hull had we got the result, and 2 behind Cardiff. Hull comfortably beat us 2-0. We didn't have a shot of note, no shots at all until about the 75th minute. It was a really, really poor performance again. And all of a sudden, we're looking as if we're a bit cut adrift once again. So it can change very, very quickly. But I think to only get 2 points from those 3 games, those 3 6-pointers, Luton, Cardiff and Hull, has kind of screwed us a little bit, really. We've got some winnable games coming up, but it's going to take a real battle from here just to try and get back up into that mix again.
I mean, you'd have argued as well that Hull, Cardiff and Luton as well were old school, what you used to call 6-pointers, the close proximity in the league. Whoever wins, it's going to seem like 6 points. And taking a couple of points off Luton, all right, I get it, but a loss to Hull is going to sting. But what it's done, you've got Hull were the team in between that 5-point gap, weren't they? And those 3 points they got against you last night kind of made that gap appear. So I assume Plymouth are a little bit aggrieved by that result more than anything, just because of the way that the league's panned out. I still think you'll catch them. I still think you catch it because I think Hull aren't very good. I think Luton are down. But you guys are going through this renaissance, this post-Rooney renaissance that just seems to. I feel like there's a fight in there more than the other clubs around you. Would you agree? Maybe Cardiff to an extent. They seem to be picking up results of late.
Potentially, it does seem that despite maybe odds to what it looked like back in December, that it's going to be yet another one of those years where it's going to need a high points total to get to where we want to be, which has been a crazy thing for us, the last few years. Last year, it took 51 points to stay up. 3 years ago, we got 80 points and missed out on the playoffs. And then, as you all very well know, 2 years ago, we got 101 points to get the title. And I think you guys ended up on 96, and that wasn't enough. So it never seems to be easy. It never seems to be dull, does it? It's been a strange one in that you're right. Things have definitely improved under Muslic. I'm not going to say that they haven't. 10 points from 10 games is not a great return, but I appreciate he had a lot of things to sort out. And also I noted that, Danny Roll in his first 10 games for Wednesday also only got 10 points. And then you really start to pick up and things happen last season. So there is cause for optimism there. And I'm certainly not going to, go toys out of the pram over Muslic. However, performances have been worrying. Like I say, that the Hull game was really, really poor performance. Luton and Cardiff were poor. The Burnley game speaks for itself. You're 5-0 down at half-time. It was a shambles. And QPR at home was really poor as well. Half of his games have been really, really poor performances where we haven't really looked like competing. And that is a concern. If that carries on, I struggle to see how we're going to pick up the points. On the flip side of that, as you say, the Millwall result, fantastic. And that was the best of this style where it's not pretty on the eye. It's not a lot of passing on the deck. It is get it up early to a front man and either play for flick-ons or second balls, but really play high up the pitch. And it was super effective against Millwall. We battered them basically, and they couldn't cope with us. And we forced them into a lot of errors. If we can do that on a regular basis, yeah, we've got a chance. But it is looking like it's going to be tough. And I think, to be honest, the next few games are pivotal as to whether we can kind of still feel like we're in that pack and we can chase them down, or whether it's just a bit of a right, we're done. Let's start planning for next season.
Yeah, you've got us on Saturday, and then after that, an away tie at Pompey, which can be tricky, or you could just steamroller them. I honestly, there's no in between with that game, and then at home to Derby County, which I assume you're looking at, licking your lips a little bit. And I feel like you're a couple of wins or about 4 points away from absolutely disrupting that. Because you see, like I said, you've got a joie de vivre at the minute down at Plymouth, and I think everybody else is trudging and going, oh, for God's sake, this is going to be a long old season. And because your season starts now, or started literally about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I feel like you've got the bounce, and I feel you could do what we did last season and stay up on the last day, because you've got that, upwardness around the club, if that makes sense. But the thing I've always not been envious of, because the flip side of it's crap, but where you are in the country, people don't like going down there. And if you can turn a home park into a fortress, as it were, to get the old adage out, if you can make your home games count, which is what you should always only really be counting on right now, where you are in the league. I know, I speaking from experience, there's an element of teams don't like driving down there. It's either a day before, or it's an overnight, or it's a really early start, and you're thinking, oh God, I've got to go down to bloody Plymouth. This is a long way. But on the flip side of it, you've got to go up to Derby, and you've got to go up to Sheffield or Sunderland, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, so much so. Yeah, it's so much so. It's been very prevalent in our results. In that title-winning season, I think we won 19 out of our 23 home games. And our away record was good, but not actually great for a team that got 101 points. And this season, all of our 6 league wins have been at home, and we still haven't won away for it. Our only away win was Brentford in the FA Cup. It's been very, very prevalent, and it's called home advantage for a reason, obviously. And I think we need to capitalise on those. You know, the game against yourselves and the game against Derby after Tuesday night's result. I think those now need to be 6 points. You know, could maybe have got away with 4 if we'd got something on Tuesday, but I think now we've just got to win our home games, the majority of them anyway, and then just see if we can pick up bits and pieces away from home. But it's been a real toil away from home this season. This league's tough, big clubs that we're up against and big opposition crowds and teams full of quality. And we haven't really coped with it, even under Stephen Schumacher, who we were doing relatively well with until he left for Stoke last season. We still didn't win an away game under him in the Championship. That's going to be pivotal to our season, those home games, because from what I've seen on the evidence of 18 months in the Championship, we do really struggle away from home, and I can't really see that changing, to be honest.
I have like a soft spot for Plymouth, and Raider Johnson being one, and 2 during COVID. I had to drive down there a couple of times a week, and that journey can get in the bin. I was only coming from Southampton, and it still took me 4 hours. But there's an element of, because we came up in League One together, we had that ding dong at the back end of last year. There's an element of, you've been in the trenches with us. Derby County, Ipswich, Luton, get in the bin. I'm not bothered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially Hull, they can go back to where they came from. Not interested. But there's like a plucky underdog around Plymouth Argyle that I quite like. But let's talk about, before we get into the game on Saturday, let's talk about Sissoko. Now, when we announced it randomly, there was an element of we've probably offered more money or something. We've flexed our financial muscle compared to Plymouth, and ended up paying for a loan. That first game of the season, I wasn't enamored with him. I thought it looked like it could be, but there was no end product from that guy at all that day. But it was a shit day out for Plymouth, right? So you kind of go, all right, benefit, they're down. Then he played his first 10-15 minutes for Sheffield Wednesday in a game on Friday night, and a lot of the Sheffield Wednesday brotherhood, the fraternity, were going, he's rubbish, he's crap, he's not very good, no end product. And I'm sat there going, well, I did kind of say it at the time, but he's only played 5 minutes, right? He's been at the club 5 seconds. Am I doing him a disservice by labeling him as such, or was he genuinely a decent player for you guys?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. There's a player in there, and he certainly will frustrate, I think, with his inconsistent end product, let's call it that. I do have a bit of a kind of, there needs to be a little bit of an asterisk towards all of our players' performances in the first half of the season, because good managers get the best out of players, and I'm sure you're seeing that with Danny Roll versus some of the managers you had.
I swear to God, Danny's best players weren't signed by him. I think the only one he can lay claim to that's done very well is Shea Charles, and that's from his old club in Southampton. The decent players that he's brought through were signed by the disaster that was our own Wayne Rooney, Xisco Munoz, and apparently you can spot a player, just can't get a performance out of them. Apparently,
yeah. Well, I saw your kind of top scorers this season, and it seems to be mostly Smith, Bannon, Windass. That's all your League One guys, isn't it? So and that
same guys.
On a wider point, I mean, that's kind of gives us optimism that it's a real toil, this division, but proof that we can become a sustainable Championship club and build our way up is that you get the right man in the dugout, and he will get the most out of the players at your disposal. We might not have the deepest pockets in the division, far from it, but if you get a manager in that really brings out a style that can get the most out of those players, you can compete against a lot of teams in this league who might have very deep pockets, but also waste a hell of a lot of money as well. Look at Stoke City, for example.
They can get relegated for me and all.
Quite right too.
Absolutely,
quite right too. Yeah, go and have their derby with Port Vale that they're so obsessed
with.
Yeah,
go and enjoy playing a 0-0 draw with Darren Moore's Port Vale. Go and have that.
Very much so. But on Sissoko, I think so. Good managers get the most out of players. Rooney was not that manager to get a lot out of players, so it is always a bit of an asterisk next to it in terms of, is this player actually not good enough, or is the manager not getting what he needs to out of this player? Is there more in the locker? I think that Sissoko showed flashes. We had a game at home to Luton where he scored a cracking goal and looked really, really dangerous for a lot of that game. And when he is running at defenders one-on-one, he can cause problems with his trickery and a bit of pace and sometimes some good delivery as well. Is it enough to kind of be consistent? And, I know that, again, championship defences, often are very organised and, you can double up on wingers and that type of thing, meaning that the opportunities that he will get to run one-on-one against a fullback might be pretty limited. And then you're thinking, well, what's he in the team for? So I think he can bring some positives to your squad, especially potentially, 20 minutes to go. You look at probably more like if you're ahead in a game and, the opposition are pushing up a little bit and then he can run one-on-one, get in those positions. He could be an asset to you guys. Do I see him as a starter for you every week? Probably not. But I suspect that's not really what you brought him in for, was it?
No, not at all. I think it's fancy legs towards the back end because Sheffield Wednesday this season, our story's been that we keep it quite tight the first half, then we kind of. We talk about energy reserve. I feel like just keeping it going, keeping it ticking over. Inevitably, though, the other team will seem to always score in the first half, and it's become like a standing gag that they'll score first, and then we'll try and win 2-1. Against the top six, it's not happened once. We seem to have lost against every team that's fighting for promotion this year. So I'll be interested to see what Sissoko can do if we are bringing him on last 10-15. See if he can maintain that energy level. Let's get into the game this weekend. I mean, how are you looking at it? Are you filled with newfound optimism, knowing that Sheffield Wednesday have won 1 in the last 6? You know what I mean? It can't keep going, but can you pile misery on?
Well, I mean, Hull City and still do have the worst home record in the division, and let's see, that went particularly well on Tuesday night, didn't it? So, it's, as I said, it's a game that we really, really need to win, and at home under Muslic has been a strange one in that I'm just racking my brains, and I'm pretty sure that we are only home loss. No, sorry, there was QPR as well. I was going to say our only home loss was that Burnley calamity, but it's more recently. The wins over West Brom and Millwall, and the frustrating draw against Cardiff. Obviously, the win against Liverpool as well. So that fortress home park is coming to the fore a little bit as well, and will be super important to us. So it's a game that we need to win, and I think we will play on the front foot as a result. We've been very, very back foot and defensive away from home and tried to shut up shop. It hasn't worked. He still hasn't got a league clean sheet yet, Miran Muslic. With us in his 10 games, but I do think this being at home, we will go front foot early doors and try and get all 3 points because we really, really need them looking at that league table.
What do you think score wise? Because I think you've got more to play for. I think even as early as March, even as early as February, I think our players are already on the beach. I think we've gone, right, listen, it's a mid-table season. Sometimes we turn up, sometimes we don't. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's where we are as a club. So going down there, we can't be arsed with that. And I think you're going to do us 2-0. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think... I fear perhaps another kind of frustrating draw on the cards. Maybe a 2-2. Let's go for. I think it might be one of those kind of frustrating ones because I take that on board about you might not be kind of massively up for it, but with the quality in your side, it's still going to be a tough game. So yeah, I'll go 2-2.
Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. Tell me about Argyle Life. Is that the local paper, or are we speaking to actual journalists, or is that your podcast?
No, it's a fan-led podcast and a website. It's been running since let me get this right, 2015, but had a bit of a kind of renaissance the last few years. Normally do a live podcast on YouTube. The day after a game, it tends to be. The guys do a fantastic job at kind of setting it all up and running it. I do the easy job of just turning up and talking waffle occasionally. But yeah, no, there's we do get a lot of content out, obviously on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, all that good stuff. And really enjoy making good Argyle content and getting fans involved and all that stuff. And it's great to see the numbers that's generating as well.
Amazing. I wish you the best of luck with it. Stay on the line and we'll catch up after. Thanks a lot, mate. See you later.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week, bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there for podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast.